Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1, Brian Moore. We are honoured to acknowledge Mohammed bin Sabu, Minister for Defence, Malaysia, General Sutton Fuli bin Zardanel R. bin Din, Chief of Defence Force, Malaysia, accompanied by Senator Linda Reynolds, Minister for Defence, Australia, General Angus Campbell, Chief of Defence Force, Australia, and the accompanying delegation. We are also honoured to acknowledge Admiral Santiago González Gómez, Director General for Armament and Materials, Spain, Ms. Cheryl Lutz, First Assistant Secretary, Ships and Capability, Acquisitions and Sustainment Group, and the accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors as well as students on behalf of the following schools. From South Australia, Trinity College, Koala River Campus, Anglevale, and from New South Wales, Blacksmiths Public School, Pelican Flat Public School, and Charlestown South Public School, and from Western Australia, the International School of Western Australia. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Thank you, students. You may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Frederick James Sutton. Frederick Sutton was born in Williamtown, near Newcastle, in New South Wales on the 27th of March 1888, one of 11 children born to Frederick and Elizabeth Sutton. Frederick grew up in Bulladella, attended the local state school and later worked as a labourer. By 1916, he was living in Goulburn with his wife Christina. Frederick Sutton enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 19th of August 1916. He was one of 3 Sutton brothers to serve in the First World War. Thomas Sutton served in the 34th Infantry Battalion and Albert Sutton served in the 4th Field Artillery Brigade. Although they were all in different units, the Sutton brothers would participate in several major battles together throughout the war. When he enlisted, Frederick Sutton gave his name as Frederick Smith, as he was known by his name throughout his service. It is not known why he served under this pseudonym, but his brother-in-law, in a letter written after his death, that he may have changed his name so as not to break his mother's heart. In November 1916, after a brief period of training, Sutton embarked from Sydney aboard the transit ship Afric to Europe. He arrived in England in January 1917 and after further training transferred to France and the war on the Western Front in April. Sutton joined C Company of the 60th Infantry Battalion, which formed part of the 15th Brigade of the 5th Australian Division. On the 5th of May 1917, and after having been at the front for a month, Sutton was in the trenches with his unit near Vracourt, near the River Somme, when the fatigue party he was serving in came under heavy German gas attack. Sutton was one of 23 men evacuated from the front, suffering from gas injuries. He was hospitalised for nearly 2 months and did not rejoin his unit until July 1917, where they were northeast of Amiens. Later that year, Sutton and his unit transferred to Ypres, sector of Belgium, where the British and Dominion forces began to concentrate their attack. On the 26th of October 1917, Sutton and the 60th Battalion took part in the successful but costly Battle of Polygon Wood. Frederick's brother Albert also participated in the battle, providing artillery fire for the Australian attack. Frederick Sutton and his unit formed part of the right flank of the Australian forces, which aimed to push forward 1.5 kilometres into the remains of a destroyed plantation. The battle began at 5:50 a.m. with an artillery barrage on German positions. Soon afterwards, infantry units climbed out of their trenches and into no man's land and began the assault. Australian units advancing over a 10-kilometre front successfully reached all their objectives and defended against German counterattacks. The battle was, however, extremely costly. Australian forces suffered over 5,700 casualties, killed, wounded and missing in a single day. More than 650 Australians were killed, including Frederick Sutton, who was 29 years old. In a further tragedy for the Sutton family, Frederick's brother Albert would be killed weeks later by an artillery fire near Zonnebaker. Private Frederick James Sutton is buried in the Tynecott Cemetery in Belgium, where nearly 12,000 soldiers of the First World War now lie. His name is listed on the honour roll on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Frederick James Sutton, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrubber Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen and students, that concludes the last post ceremony. We'd like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.